epic home studio. Absolutely, man. I'm excited to check this out.
So today was really weird. I got to have the man, the myth, the legend, Mitch Gallagher, come to my house, my home studio. This was super cool to do this studio tour in a different sort of way than most of the videos where I'm going to someone else's studio and I'm just geeking out and asking them everything about it. He actually came to my studio to ask me about how I use the room, and he has obviously, it's Mitch Gallagher, he has some great questions. I put all the links for the gear you're gonna see in this video in my studio down in the description. There's like one link that just has everything. Everything in my room is constantly changing. I change my room literally every week. My friend John, who was just here a couple weeks ago, walked in and he was like, "Oh, nice speakers." They're new, they're amazing, the Trio 6s. So if you want to check any of that stuff out, links are all down below. If you guys want to become a member, see some more behind the scenes stuff from the typical studio tours, you can go become a member at ANDREWMASTERSmusic.com. Yeah, let's find out what Mitch thinks of this room. All right.
Because you're like always touring everybody else's studios, so now we get a chance to tour yours.
Yes.
How cool is that?
All right, well, this is cool because I've only done the tours with me in front of the camera. Me giving it in front of the camera is no good, so maybe it'll be better with you as the host.
Right.
All right, so this is the whole thing right here. It's one room, video, audio, musician, whatever I am.
Man, but you got it all covered here. You got the lighting rig, you got the audio rig, the studio rig, the drum rig, you got guitar rig, you got the whole thing kind of set up all in this space. And lots of acoustic treatment.
This room was an old single car garage that was converted into a den. Mm-hmm. And you can still see, because when I moved in, I didn't want to rip anything out. So above this door here is some of the original wood paneling. It's very hip in the late 80s, 90s.
Right.
And so I just ripped the floor out, put in some new laminate from Home Depot, and I built these walls that are essentially bass traps.
They're like super thick. Like some of these are like a foot thick, it looks like.
Yeah, so all the way around, it's 12 inches, except for right there because there's an attic door.
Ah.
So I couldn't make that one swing.
Gotta leave access for that, right?
There's a wonderful producer and engineer who has made a ton of my favorite records, who I took advice and basically stole the design of his room. His name's Valentine. Mm-hmm. He had a studio in his house. He built it after he'd ran barefoot for 15 years. He made a whole like hour-and-a-half long video talking about control rooms and acoustics and all that. And I'm super nerd. So I took that as the gospel. It's been tremendous for me. And I go to studios every week.
Yeah, well, this is really, it feels comfortable. There's not reflections, but it also doesn't feel so dead that you're like, all the life sucked out of it. You know, it actually still feels like a room that you can be comfortable in for long periods of time. I see, so you got storage back in the corners where you couldn't
exactly
get in there. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so the primary use of this room was designed to be mixing. Mm-hmm. That was like, functionally, I want a room that I can trust what I'm getting, what I'm hearing in here, and know that it's not lying to me when I leave. And then secondary was, I want to record drums. Mm-hmm. So he had concrete floors in his rooms, and I was like, that's not an option here, so hopefully this laminate. But it turned out fantastic, and because this essentially operates as like a booth, mm-hmm. like a tight drum booth. So all the close mics sound fantastic. There's obviously very little bleed. It resonates really well. It's not super dead. But what I do is I'll open that door into my living room, and the living room is all original red oak floors, and it's wide open. So I take a couple of those biodynamic M160s, stick those out there with the door open.
Okay.
And it creates this massive, for being a little den, mm-hmm. massive drum space, which is
right. You get that ambience with the layout. That's pretty smart. So you leave the drum set up all the time then? You leave the mics on them and it's just ready to go at an instant?
Yep. Yeah, I wanted this room functionally to be a creative playground. So I can just walk up to something, touch it, and hear, and be able to play it like I'm in a showroom or something.
Right.
So these mics are always ran. There's the cables run down into this little panel I have down here.
Okay.
And this panel runs all the way back behind my desk to the patch bay. And then the patch bay takes it to the interfaces or the mic pre. So I have sort of a hybrid setup. This is kind of my dream setup as far as, getting some analog, but not physical recalls.
Right.
Because I did recalls for 5 years and it sucked.
You got tired of that?
Yeah.
So you're doing more analog than on the front end.
Yes.
And then you've also got some on the back end, it looks like, as well.
Exactly. So what I like to do is I'll have all my drum mics piped through those 273s and 73s from Warm Audio.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kind of just set, ready to go. It's like kick in, out, snare top. I pretty much just use one snare mic.
Okay.
Snare top, hi-hat, toms, overheads, and rooms. And then if I'm overdubbing and I want to use those pre's, I'll just pop out channel 10 on the patch bay, and then I'll flip to the Mojave MA300 or these Lawton Audio. I've been trying out these Lawton Audios and they've been fantastic.
Nice, yeah, nice mics.
But still have the option to do because I have the X8P over there,
mm-hmm.
and then the X16. So I can do outboard and then also have the additional 8 pre's from the Apollo, which is where I started
mm-hmm.
on that one. And then the right section of the desk was designed to be mixed bus processing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can keep this as a hardware insert in Pro Tools. And then all my faders are through the UF8, and that just does the instant recall to the session.
So these are they in the X16 then? They're just hard patched all the time and you just choose that insert in Pro Tools?
Exactly. What I'll do is I'll take 2 inputs and outputs,
mm-hmm.
and I'll patch to them and from them to Pro Tools inputs and outputs. And I will just insert that right on the master fader. And then I can run through these.
Those are the Pultec style, aren't they?
Yeah, the EQ PWAs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually really liked them. I was a little reluctant at first because I hadn't used them, and I'm very, I like to stick to stuff that I've used and I'm familiar with, and
I've
used the originals a bunch, but they're fantastic. And then I have the Neve 33609,
mm-hmm.
which is a classic.
Yep.
Wonderful
classic.
compressor.
Bus compressor, absolutely.
And then the Warm Audio VCA comp, which is kind of emulating the SSL VCA,
mm-hmm.
which I was also reluctant, but turns out is really good.
Yeah.
I got to give them credit for that. They did a really, really great job.
That's cool. So you have easy access to everything. Are you EQing on the way in with the 273s, or do you set those flat and then just use them as preamps?
Initially, I got them just because of the pre's. I didn't
mm-hmm.
care necessarily about the EQs. I did a sort of shootout a while back on the pre's, and that's what really mattered to me. But once I got the 273 EQs, I did try them. I started on toms, and I really liked it. And then so now what I'll do, once I'm comfortable with the setup, I'm constantly trying different gear. So I'll start without the EQ, and then if it feels like it needs it, then I'll put it in. But I do like the EQs on toms and kick in,
mm-hmm.
Depending on the mic selection of that day. But yeah, those are all good too. All this is set up to just be easy, sit, play, go. And then the newest addition is these speakers.
Ah, the Focals.
Yeah, these are the Trio 6s.
Nice.
And they actually brought in the Trio 11s first,
mm-hmm.
which are way too big for this room. It was really fun. But these speakers actually sound bigger in this room.
In the room, right.
But they've been fantastic.
I've got a set of the Trio 11s in my office.
Oh,
my
my
office
gosh.
studio at Sweetwater, and man, they are so cool. They're really, really wonderful speakers.
When Josh brought them over and was kind of breaking them down for me, one of the things he showed me that I didn't realize about them is the focus mode.
Yeah.
Which is if you have just one set of speakers, it's fantastic because apparently inside them there's 2 cabinets.
Yep.
It's one
enclosure, but there's kind of two spaces inside that are separate from each other.
Yeah, so I just picked this little Fender channel selector for an amp and pipe that into the back of that, and you can, when you flip that on, it just turns off I know you already know this, but it turns off the sub speaker here, and it's just these, so it's very, very flat, but it's not like a jarring change. It's not like you're switching to NS10s, which are totally different.
Right, but it kind of gives you that going to a small near field style monitor versus a midfield with the bigger woofer. So how do you, when you're recording yourself on drums, how do you control the recording rig?
This desk is modular. So this desk can move basically out to about here.
Okay.
So I can see very easily. And then I have wireless mouse and keyboard, but I keep a secondary set right next to the kit. So what I'll do is I'll just come over here, sit down, and then I can just see my computer in front of me, and I'll play and do my key commands from over here, and this has like a little trackpad in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Theoretically, when I'm playing drums, I don't want to engineer.
Right.
I just want to drum.
Right.
But it's a room in a house.
Yeah.
You know, so it works out really, really well.
That's great. I got to check that keyboard out. That's pretty cool.
These,
I like
I can't remember the model, but for wireless, okay, so K600 from Logitech, it has the best range. Like I could bring this out in the living room and change songs on iTunes in here. So it's really, really good with range.
Have you tried using like the iPad apps for remote controlling DAWs and those kind of things?
If I had an iPad that was compatible,
that would be a limiting factor.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I have a one thing I was doing. I bought the M1 laptop, and you can do a screen share, so I can control my computer. I forgot. I haven't done that in a while, but that was kind of cool. It's a 13-inch though, so it's really small. Usually, what I'll do is I'll get headphone levels, I'll get the click, everything set while I'm over there, and I'll kind of test it. And then I'll come over here and just hit 3 and new playlist.
Right. So you got, you're putting the ceiling to work. So you got clouds, but you also, man, I like the way you've got the drum overhead mounted onto the ceiling.
Getting things off of the floor is like the name of the game in small spaces. And I just did the same thing with these lights. So like these are now just ceiling mounted, because otherwise, like the stands they come with, the tripods are so huge. You'd just be knocking stuff over, especially with dogs and a kid. And
yeah, sure. You got to have, well, for what you do,
you
need cameras and tripods and all those kind of things for all that stuff. So.
In June last year, when no one knew quite what was going on, this was a hobby sort of thing I did. I went to Home Depot and I was like, I know how to use Unistrut. And then I later figured out that they make ceiling mounted mic stands. So
that works though.
Yeah, I took a circular saw to one of my stands and clamped it up there.
That's awesome. I love it.
It looks really good on video because, you know, I work really hard to make it look really good, but every single week I learn one new thing. And that's why I really like going to other people's studios, is because I literally just steal their every time I see one good, and it's never like what you would think. Like it never has anything to do with engineering. It always has to do with like practicality or storage, or a way that something is being used that just makes so much more sense.
Right. Well, you got the space maximized. Speaking of storage, you got little cubbies everywhere with your mics and tea and important things like that.
Work in progress, you know.
Yeah, but the cool thing about using cubbies like that and shelves like you have here and things is that it's pretty easy to just reach out and grab it.
Yes.
You don't have to dig through and find things, and they're kind of all ready to go right there.
Yeah, this wall is finally being maximized. This was actually an idea I took from Lyle Workman, an incredible guitarist, and he uses it for guitar pedals. And if you open any of the drawers, the height of them is perfect for guitar pedals. So you could literally fill this out with pedals, and they all fit. So every drawer is filled with pedals. I don't have as many as he does, so I stuck mine up on the wall, which was something I took from Vance Powell.
So how do you use the pedals? How are they integrated into the rig?
Okay, so this is probably my favorite part because I've always had an amp and liked playing guitar. I'm like a guitar player stuck in a drummer's body.
Yeah.
So this is great because it's just right here. When I'm sitting here and I'm trying to work out an idea, I can just reach over and I can tweak the amp, I can tweak the pedals, standing up, which is actually really nice. Obviously, bending over on the floor isn't super fun, but also it takes up a lot of space on the floor. So what I have is I have two setups with this pedal board. The inputs are right here. So I have one input on this D1, which is coming from a reamp box. And the reamp box comes from Pro Tools.
Okay.
So I can play a part, pull up a Wurlitzer or a B3, and what I'll do is I'll set the output using console to my reamp output, and that box lives over there under the speaker.
Yep.
And that pipes right into this rig. So it goes through the chain, and then it hits this stereo DI box, which is molting to the amp. So it has the through, which goes to the amp. So I can use my VST through the pedals and just record the direct signal processing. Like this H9 is really cool. It's got a good Leslie setting on there, or the chorus vibrato. Like I love taking a pretty sound and just totally ruining it.
Right.
Or I'll just go right through the amp, which is really fun, like to play a Rhodes or something and hear it come out of the amp instead of just, the beautiful preset that they made.
Right.
And then the second input obviously is guitar, which I'll keep like a cable right there, and I can just pop that into the tuner.
Yep.
And this was kind of like a little hack. Since the tuner only has one input, I just use the stereo input for the delay.
Okay.
So that way I can have two inputs, and then I'll put the guitar into here, and then I can go through the amp. And then I also have this little Micro Freak here, which is a super fun toy that I'm totally unqualified to use, that has a 1/4 inch output that I'll pop into the pedals and stuff if I want to just go down like a mute math road, or find like a grimy synth sort of thing. It's usually like I just need something for one transition or one part or something. I'm very much not a synth guy, but I romanticize being one. I just don't want to wind up with a bunch of those racks.
Yeah, right. But this lets you have all those colors and textures and things because you got so much process. So is it just like hook and loop stuck onto the carpeting on a board? Is that what you got going here?
Yeah, this was a half an hour project. I live, Home Depot's right there. It is a problem. I'm there all the time. So this was what's now a $700 piece of plywood. No, kidding. I think it was probably $10 for this little square. I think it was 4 feet, and I cut it down to kind of fit this little area. And then this carpeting is, I don't even know who or what it would be used for. Maybe like when it's raining.
Maybe like an outdoor carpeting?
Yeah, it was $10. So I spent $20 on this, stuck it to the wall. I stapled the carpet to the board, and then all of these are on Velcro. So I can just pop them off and move them around, modular. If one thing's gonna work better, I can just sort of change that setup.
That's brilliant. I saw the one you did with Vance where he had that on the wall, but this is a much closer look. That's cool.
Yeah, I think his is, he's using it more for mixing.
Yeah.
Which is another brilliant idea, using pedals as outboard gear. And actually this pedal works. I mean, all pedals work great for that, but this one is incredible.
I was going to say, that's a cool processor for tracks, yeah. Nice. You got everything in the cool desk. The keyboard fits in there perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I bought this keyboard just because it was the only one I could find on Sweetwater that had the dimensions to fit in this little insert.
It's perfect.
So this is a Danger Fox Genesis 24U. They have a couple different models. There's a 16 unit version, which is just 2 of these spaces for smaller rooms.
Yep.
And then they just came out with another one, but this is my favorite that I was like, I would love this walnut, whatever this is, dark walnut. And they did a wraparound stain all the way around the back to the front. There's actually a black insert that makes this level.
Okay.
But I really loved the color and using this as an armrest. So I popped that keyboard in there, and
It does give you a tray to hold all that stuff that ends up needing to be held somewhere.
yeah.
That's cool.
As much as I am an audio dork, I'm also a very visual person, you know. There's something wrong in my brain where I need things to look great, and then when they look great, I can be really creative and productive.
Right.
But if there's something that's messy, I will be so distracted by it
Right.
that I'm like, hold on, let me just fix this real quick.
So one of the things that's interesting is I think most of us default to putting our monitor between the speakers.
Oh, yeah.
And you sit facing forward. But of course, if you go into many pro studios,
Yep.
they've got the rig off to the side, which I also prefer.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what your reasoning is for having that off on the cart on the side, aside from being able to move it.
It's, you know, a handful of reasons. I just felt like I was making decisions based off what I was seeing and not what I was hearing. Mark Sibilia had this desk in his room. His room is 100% modular. So there is, and he doesn't have his screen on that table. He has like a big thing back against the wall and big ATC 150s, but he keeps his mouse and keyboard on it, and it just rolls anywhere in the room because it's wireless.
Right.
But I saw that and I go, I bet I could hang a monitor on there and have that be my sidecar, and came up using rooms that were laid out like that. It just made total sense to me. And then the other practical part of it is I shoot video, and I do that all the time.
Right.
So having and editing and all that stuff, having my screen a lot closer for me just made my eyes feel a little bit better. I don't know the science on what's best for my eyes. My wife will tell me that. But I wasn't having to squint as hard and kind of look when it's 5 feet away from my face.
Right.
And then also, I can put a tripod back here and shoot this way. I couldn't do that with the screen, which was a real annoying thing.
So you've got it on an arm, so you can move that screen around too.
Yeah, so that's on like a Amazon swivel arm, and then the desk is a standing desk, so it stands up, and then it's on wheels, so it can actually wheel around the room, you know, depending on how much slack you give it with cables.
Right.
Mine's pretty good. I have to get back here a lot, so I'll usually pull it forward like this.
Right.
And then I can kind of walk through here, get to the patch bay or get back to my shelves. And I am just as obsessive about everything behind the desk being as clean as possible. As things are constantly changing in here, I really like to know what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And be able to change it, or you know, if I'm putting a new piece of gear. This desk is really well designed for keeping things hidden and organized, which is perfect for an insane person like myself.
Yeah. But that's cool. Then it saves you time in the long run. And I also find that when you keep that stuff neat, then you know what's going where. It tends to be more reliable too. You don't get those intermittent problems that when you just have a nest of cables that are kind of balled up back there. So what's this?
So this is the TC Electronic Clarity. It's essentially a visual, you know, meter. Obviously, this isn't a true console, so there's not a meter bridge there. But the way I'm using it is with their plugin on, you know, I use Pro Tools a lot of the time, so I'll put it on the master fader. For me, this was a nice screen replacement where I wasn't looking at my automation, but I could still see, like, when I'm adjusting my master bus or my mix bus, like, how hard am I really hitting this?
Yeah, you're not going over, right? That's cool. That's very cool. How do you split your brain and your space and your hours with all the video stuff that you do?
Yeah.
And still mixing and working on music and being a pro engineer?
It's very chaotic, and I do my best to organize what I can. You know, I also have a 4-year-old, 4 pets, and I'm married, so we're very rigid with scheduling. My wife helps me with some of the administration work of what I do, both with video and audio, and anything I can offload to her helps me a ton. She's way better at actual business than I am, or my window of skill sets is like this narrow. It's like I can hit drums sometimes, you know, I wouldn't even call myself like a real pro session drummer. I'm like, I have drums and I can record them.
Right.
I tend to do better when I do things that I enjoy, which sounds wonderfully cheesy. It's something that took me like 25 years to learn when I do things that I don't enjoy, I do a terrible job at it. So
Right.
I've kind of just set up a life where I can, like I'm a huge dork when it comes to gear. I love learning about and trying and using new gear and learning different applications of it, playing instruments, collaborating with friends. So what I'll do is I'll find like some music project I want to do, and I'll invite some friends. Then we'll make a song, and I'll use the gear that I like to use, and then I'll make a video out of it. So
Right.
I can kind of cross all those things off
Yeah.
and use that to pay the bills. And
Sure.
the mixing that I prefer to do is, mix work that I prefer to do, which always yields better results anyway.
Right. Of course.
That's a big trick for like great mixers, is they're working on great projects.
Makes life so much more easy.
Oh yeah.
And funner too. Right. Well, in the meantime, you got a really cool and really comfortable space
Thank you.
to work in that you can do everything you need right in this one spot. So there's
Yes.
a lot to be said for that.
Thank
And
you.
it's very cool. And it does, we were talking about earlier when I came in, and we talked a little bit about it before, but it really sounds great in here.
It does. I'll play you some stuff too, because in that spot right under that cloud, it sounds just, it's silly how everything about this space is silly to me that it works, because I made it, and I am woefully unqualified to be making anything. But it sounds so good, which is why I love, being able to share that with people and say, hey, look, this is what I did, and it's freaking working.
Yeah.
And I'm in my house, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been quite a journey, and it sounds great. This is something that no one wants to do, is give up the square footage of their room to build this kind of thing. But I would have a lot more problems.
Yeah.
Like way more problems.
Yeah.
If I would have left that space open and just put some panels on the wall. So I'm 100% sold on this design.
Of course, we both love gear. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all about gear and being nerds with that stuff. But if the room doesn't sound good, then you're just fighting it
Yeah.
from beginning to end. And so whether you're tracking or you're mixing or even editing or whatever, if the room doesn't sound good, it just makes everything so hard.
Yes.
So yeah, man, that's got to be number one when you're starting out. So very cool, man. Congratulations,
Thank you.
both on the room and all your success and everything. You're like the YouTube star, man.
Oh, no. I'm just a dude.
Man, I love watching the videos, though. It's fun. It's fun checking out all the studios with you. I'm so glad we got to check out your studio, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That brings it all home. No pun intended.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys came here to check out. You have to take some candy on the way out.
Right on, man. Thanks for letting us drop by at the Epic Home Studio Tour.
Yeah. What
Very
do you
cool.
think? Is it epic or?
I think it's epic. Yeah.
All right. Well,
You've done the job here, man. This is cool.
you'll have to help me come up with a new adjective for the next studio. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. It's loud. I actually picked up this Keylab 61 recently because my USB went out on my controller that I had, but I've always wanted something that can sit right here. This is the Keylab 61. It's actually a pretty affordable MIDI controller from Arturia. I use the V Collection 8 a lot. It's a great way to just kill a bunch of time and get lost in all the presets. But since it's made by Arturia, you can just flip through the presets right on the controller, which you can do with some other controllers, but since it's obviously made by the same company, it's really well laid out as far as the user interface. But also this specific controller actually fits right in the little sliver of my desk here. I've been using this one. This one's awesome, and the V Collection 8 pairs so perfectly with it. I actually went through some of their presets and made my own, like the ones that I liked. This one's called Abyss. I'm actually a secret composer. I composed everything that Apple TV's putting out, actually. This one's called Acid Arctic. Come on, bro. They're so cool. There we go. Little Muse nod there. So yeah, if you guys are looking for a good MIDI controller, this is what I've been using. I've really liked it. Obviously, all the pots and everything. I'm not going to review this product, but it's rad. And the V Collection 8 has been super fun. So if you're looking for some VSTs to just kill all of your time, that's That's a good one. All right, thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring the video. Links to these down in the description.